Look who's still standing after everything they threw at you. After every lie they planted, every story they twisted, every room they poisoned before you even walked in. Welcome back to the ones who've been carrying the weight of accusations they never earned, the stain of rumors they never started, the ghost of a reputation destroyed by people who smiled to your face while sharpening knives behind your back. They thought they buried you, didn't they? Thought they covered their tracks so well that the truth would stay buried forever, that no one would ever dig deep enough to find what really happened. But here's what they didn't count on. Here's the part that's about to shatter their carefully constructed reality into a million irreparable pieces. Someone went looking. Someone who refused to believe their version. Someone who knew the story didn't add up. Someone who saw through the performance and decided to do what everyone else was too scared, too comfortable, too complicit to do. They went dark, they disappeared from the grid, cut every tie, burned every bridge, and went hunting for the one thing that could destroy the lie forever. The evidence, the proof, the undeniable truth that you were telling all along. And they found it, oh, they found it. Every deleted message, every altered screenshot, every forged timestamp, every coordinated attack, every private conversation where they admitted what they were doing to you, where they laughed about how easy it was to make everyone believe their fiction, where they planned each move like generals, orchestrating a war against someone who didn't even know they were on the battlefield. This person, this shadow, this silent warrior, didn't just find scraps. They found the entire architecture of the conspiracy, the blueprints of your destruction, the paper trail of malice, documented in real time by the very people who swore they were innocent. And now they're sitting on a nuclear file, a compilation so devastating that everyone who contributed to your downfall is about to experience the full weight of karmic justice, delivered in high-resolution screenshots, time-stamped confessions, and recorded conversations they thought were safely buried in deleted chats and private servers. They're not just ready to clear your name, they're ready to burn the entire system that tried to erase you, ready to expose every liar, every enabler, every coward who stayed silent while watching you suffer, ready to make sure that when people search your name years from now, they won't find the lies anymore. They'll find the truth, the real story, the evidence that proves you were right all along. Let's talk about what happened for a second, because people need to understand the level of psychological warfare you survived, the coordinated campaign of reputation assassination that was waged against you while you were just trying to exist, trying to defend yourself with nothing but your word against an army of storytellers who had the numbers, the platform, and the audience already convinced. They didn't just spread one lie, they built an entire narrative, a multi-layered false reality where you were the villain, the problem, the threat, and they were the victims, the heroes, the ones who had to warn everyone about how dangerous you were. They whispered in group chats. They made subtle posts that seemed innocent but were designed to plant seeds of doubt. They coordinated their timing so that every platform, every circle, every mutual friend heard the same distorted version of events within hours, creating an echo chamber so powerful that the truth didn't stand a chance. And you tried to defend yourself, tried to explain, tried to show people the reality. But every time you spoke, they twisted your words, called you defensive, called you unhinged, said your reaction was proof of everything they claimed, weaponizing your pain as evidence of your guilt. They isolated you systematically, turned your friends into informants, your allies into skeptics, your safe spaces into hostile territories where your very presence was treated like a contamination. And through it all, they smiled. They posted inspirational quotes about healing and boundaries. They played the role of mature, evolved souls who just wanted peace, while behind the scenes, they were architects of your destruction. But someone saw through it, someone who wasn't part of their circle, someone who watched from the outside and noticed the patterns, the inconsistencies, the way their story kept shifting, the way they all said the same things in slightly different words like they were reading from a script, the way they reacted too quickly, too coordinated, too aggressive whenever anyone questioned the narrative. This person started asking questions that no one else dared to ask, started looking at timelines that didn't match, started noticing how certain screenshots were cropped just a little too conveniently, how certain details changed depending on who was telling the story, how the people accusing you the loudest had the most to hide themselves. So they did something radical, something dangerous, something that required sacrificing their own social standing and safety. They went undercover. They infiltrated the inner circles. They played along. They earned trust. They listened to the unguarded conversations. They watched the masks slip when people thought no one was paying attention. And slowly, piece by piece, they collected the evidence, the real evidence, not the manufactured garbage that was presented as truth, but the actual communications, the actual admissions, the actual proof that this was a coordinated takedown, that you were targeted deliberately, that everything you said happened exactly the way you said it happened, and the people who destroyed your reputation knew it the whole time. Now they're sitting on files that read like a crime novel, conversations where your enemies discussed tactics, where they debated how far to push, where they celebrated small victories in isolating you, where they mocked your attempts to defend yourself, where they strategized about how to shut you down if you got too close to exposing them, where they reassured each other that no one would believe you anyway, because they had already poisoned every well, controlled every narrative, ensured that your voice would be dismissed as the ramblings of someone unstable, someone bitter, someone who just couldn't accept accountability. These files contain timestamps that prove they lied about when things happened, screenshots that show they edited and manipulated evidence before presenting it publicly, recordings that capture them admitting in private what they denied in public, witness statements from people who finally found the courage to tell the truth, people who were there, who saw what really happened, who were threatened or guilted into silence but couldn't live with the lie anymore. This evidence doesn't just suggest you were innocent, it proves it, with the kind of clarity that makes denial impossible, the kind of documentation that holds up under any scrutiny, the kind of truth that burns so bright it forces everyone who participated in your destruction to either confess or be exposed as the liars they are. And here's what's beautiful about this moment. Here's what makes this different from just another revenge fantasy. This isn't about you seeking vindication. You didn't go looking for this. You didn't demand it. You didn't manipulate or force anyone to clear your name. You simply survived. You simply kept walking, kept breathing, kept building a life in the ruins they left behind, and someone else, someone with nothing to gain and everything to lose, decided that the truth mattered more than their comfort, more than their social standing, more than staying in the good graces of the people who destroyed you. They saw injustice and couldn't stomach it. They saw you carrying a burden you didn't deserve and decided to lift it. They saw a system that rewards liars and punishes honesty and decided to break it. Not for recognition, not for praise, not even for your gratitude, but because watching someone suffer for telling the truth was more than their conscience could bear. This person became your ghost advocate, your shadow lawyer, your silent champion, working in darkness so that you could finally step into light, risking their own reputation to restore yours, knowing that when this evidence goes public, they'll face backlash too. They'll be called obsessed, bitter, someone with an agenda, someone who should mind their own business. But they don't care, because they know what you've been through. They know what it's like to watch someone drown, while everyone else pretends not to see. So what happens now? What happens when this evidence finally surfaces? When it's uploaded, shared, spread across every platform where your name was dragged through the mud, when everyone who participated in your destruction wakes up to find their lies exposed in uneditable, undeniable, permanent, public record. First comes the panic, the frantic deleting, the sudden account deactivations, the desperate attempts to control the damage, to spin a new narrative, to claim they were misunderstood, taken out of context, that things were different back then, that they've grown since then. All the predictable deflections of people who never thought they'd face consequences. Then comes the silence from people who were so loud when attacking you. Suddenly no one has anything to say. No one wants to address the evidence directly. They just quietly unfollow, quietly remove old posts, quietly hope it all blows over without them having to actually acknowledge what they did. Then comes the trickle of private messages, the half-hearted apologies sent in direct messages where no one else can see. The people who suddenly want to explain their side, want you to understand they were manipulated too, want forgiveness without accountability, want to be let off the hook without facing public reckoning. And finally comes the shift. The people who stayed silent when you needed them suddenly want to be on your side. Suddenly they always knew something was off. Suddenly they're angry on your behalf. Suddenly they want to be part of the story of your vindication, even though they were nowhere to be found during your crucifixion. But here's what they don't understand. Here's what none of them can grasp even now. This isn't about revenge for you anymore. This isn't about watching them squirm or collecting apologies like trophies. This isn't even about restoring your reputation, because somewhere along the way, somewhere in the depths of that isolation and false accusation, you stopped needing their validation, stopped needing their approval, stopped needing anything from a world that showed you how quickly truth becomes irrelevant when lies are more entertaining. And you've already done the work of rebuilding yourself in silence. You've already learned to stand without their support. You've already created a life where their opinions don't have power anymore, where their acceptance or rejection doesn't determine your worth, where you exist completely independent of their narratives and judgments. The evidence clearing your name isn't coming to save you because you already saved yourself. It's coming to expose them, to show the world what you've known all along, that they are the monsters they claimed you were, that they are the liars, the manipulators, the toxic ones who destroy people and call it accountability, who ruin lives and call it boundaries, who coordinate attacks and call it protecting the community. This evidence is a mirror, and they're about to see their true faces reflected back in undeniable clarity. And there's no filter, no angle, no edit that can make them look like anything other than what they are. Someone went dark for you, disappeared into the shadows where truth hides when lies become popular, and they did it knowing they might never get credit, knowing you might never even know it was them, knowing that the moment they release this evidence, they become a target too. But they did it anyway. Because some people still believe that truth matters, that justice matters, that watching an innocent person suffer is worse than any social consequence they might face. This person saw you when no one else wanted to look, believed you when everyone else chose comfort over truth, fought for you when you had stopped fighting for yourself, not because you were weak, but because you were exhausted, because fighting against an army of liars with nothing but your word is like trying to empty an ocean with a teaspoon, futile and soul-crushing, and ultimately pointless, when everyone has already decided what to believe. But this person didn't stop, didn't give up, didn't decide that your truth was less important than their peace. They went to war on your behalf. In the darkness where wars for truth are actually fought, in the unsexy, unglamorous work of documentation, investigation, evidence collection, risking everything for someone who might never even thank them. And that is what real loyalty looks like. Not the performative posts, not the public declarations, but the silent, dangerous, costly action taken when no one is watching. And now the world is about to change. Not just your world, but theirs too. The people who built their reputations on your ruins are about to watch those reputations crumble. The people who gained followers, sympathy, and status by painting you as a monster are about to be revealed as the real monsters. The people who stayed silent, who went along, who enabled the lie because it was easier than standing up for truth, they're about to face the uncomfortable reality that they participated in destroying an innocent person, and no amount of justification, no amount of claiming they didn't know, no amount of distance will erase their complicity. Some of them will try to claim ignorance, will say they only heard one side, will act like they were victims of manipulation too, and maybe some of them were. Maybe some genuinely believed the lies because they were told so convincingly. But that doesn't change what they did. Doesn't erase the words they said, the accusations they spread, the pain they caused. Ignorance is not innocence when someone is screaming the truth and you choose not to listen, because listening would require you to question people you like, to confront uncomfortable realities, to admit you might have been wrong. The evidence is coming, and it's not a leak, it's not a rumor, it's not speculation, it's documentation, it's proof. It's the kind of truth that doesn't need interpretation or spin or devil's advocate debates. It simply is. Undeniable, irrefutable, permanent. And when it drops, when it spreads across every platform where your name was destroyed, when it reaches every person who judged you, when it lands in the inbox of every person who participated in your downfall, the reckoning begins. Not the reckoning you wanted back when you were drowning in false accusations, desperately trying to prove your innocence, but the reckoning that comes when you've already survived, already healed, already built a new life. The reckoning that isn't about saving you, but about exposing them, about ensuring that their actions have consequences, about making sure that the next person they target has evidence that these people are capable of coordinated destruction. You pick a fight, and now you beat everyone they about creating a record that can't be deleted, can't be edited, can't be gaslit away when they try to do this again. Because people like this always do it again, always find a new target, always need a villain to unite against, always need someone to destroy, to feel powerful. Someone went dark, went silent, went underground, and emerged with fire, with proof, with the weapon that destroys lies, truth, raw, documented, undeniable truth. And they're not asking for your permission to release it. They're not checking if you're ready. They're not waiting for the perfect moment. They're simply doing what should have been done from the beginning, presenting reality without filter, without spin, without the manipulation that turned your life into their entertainment. And when this evidence becomes public knowledge, when it's archived, shared, cited, referenced, when it becomes part of the permanent record associated with your name and their names, everything changes. The narrative they controlled so completely for so long shattered. The story they told themselves to justify their actions falls apart. The comfortable lie they've been living inside explodes, and they're left standing in the ruins of their own creation, exposed, accountable, and facing the consequences they were so certain they'd never face, because they thought they'd won, thought they'd gotten away with it, thought your silence meant defeat, thought your survival was just stubbornness, thought time would erase their crime. But time doesn't erase truth, it only makes lies more obvious. They're about to learn what you already know, that there's a difference between getting away with something and actually being innocent, that there's a cost to destroying someone, even if you never face immediate consequences, that the universe keeps receipts even when people delete them, that someone is always watching, always documenting, always collecting evidence, always waiting for the right moment to bring truth into light. And that moment is now. Not because you demanded it, not because you manipulated it into existence, but because someone who saw injustice couldn't stomach it anymore. Someone who watched you suffer decided that your suffering meant more than their comfort. Someone who had nothing to gain and everything to lose decided that truth was worth the risk. And that's the real story here. Not just that you were innocent, not just that you were right, not just that they were lying, but that in a world where lying is easier, where going along is safer, where silence is rewarded, someone chose difficulty, chose danger, chose to stand alone in defense of truth, chose you when choosing you cost them everything. And that choice, that sacrifice, that silent warfare waged in darkness on your behalf, that's the evidence that goodness still exists, that loyalty still exists, that there are still people who believe some things matter more than popularity, more than safety, more than the comfort of staying in everyone's good graces. So here's what you need to understand as this evidence prepares to surface, as the person who found it prepares to release it, as the world prepares to see what you've known all along. You don't owe anyone anything. Not forgiveness, not understanding, not acceptance of their apologies, not patience with their excuses, not compassion for their discomfort when truth arrives. You don't owe them peace. You don't owe them closure. Welcome back, you magnificent trap setters. You beautiful architects of controlled chaos. You souls who learn to smile while being studied like insects under glass. They've been tracking you, haven't they? Every click, every pause, every late night scroll, every pattern in your chaos, every deviation from their predictions. They thought they were hunting you, documenting you, building a profile on the unpredictable. But here's the part that keeps them up at night. The part that makes their hands shake when they type your name into their systems. You knew the entire time, didn't you? See, they thought surveillance was their weapon, their advantage, their way of staying 3 steps ahead of the anomaly. They hired the best, spent the money, installed the software, created the files, assigned the watchers. Every morning, someone woke up with your name on their assignment sheet, tasked with decoding the mystery, tracking the variables, predicting the next move. And every night, every single night, they filed reports that said the same thing: subject aware, patterns intentional, behavior suggests premeditation, recommendation, escalate with extreme caution, because this one knows we're watching. Oh, they tried to be subtle at first, didn't they? The friend who suddenly started asking too many questions. The coworker who appeared out of nowhere with uncanny timing. The digital footprints that seemed just a little too obvious. The conversations that felt rehearsed. The coincidences that stretched probability past its breaking point. They thought you wouldn't notice the shifts in energy, the micro-expressions of recognition, the tells that only someone who's been lied to professionally can spot. But you did notice, and instead of running, instead of hiding, instead of changing your patterns, you leaned into it. You performed for them. You gave them exactly what they needed to see while hiding everything that mattered. Because here's what they never understood about people like you. You weren't born yesterday. You weren't raised in safety. You weren't shaped by comfort and trust. You were forged in environments where reading people wasn't a skill, it was survival. You learned to spot the watcher in a crowded room before you learned to spell your own name. You developed the instinct to sense when energy shifts, when intentions misalign with words, when someone's watching you a little too carefully while pretending not to watch at all. So when they deployed their surveillance, when they activated their monitors, when they thought they were being clever, you felt it immediately, like a shift in air pressure before a storm. And that's when you made the decision that changed everything, the decision that flipped their entire operation on its head, the choice that turned the hunters into the hunted, without them even realizing it had happened. You decided to let them watch, to feed them information, to control the narrative they were building, to become the author of your own surveillance file. You didn't run from the microscope. You climbed under it willingly, smiled up at the lens, and said, "Let me show you exactly what I want you to see while you completely miss what's actually happening." Checkmate before the game even started. They wanted patterns, so you gave them patterns. Beautiful, complex, seemingly random patterns that kept their analysts busy for months trying to decode meaning that didn't exist. They wanted to understand your psychology, so you performed emotions, displayed reactions, showed vulnerability in calculated moments, designed to make them think they were getting close. They wanted to predict you, so you created false tells, planted fake patterns, left breadcrumbs that led absolutely nowhere. And the entire time, the real you, the actual mind behind the performance, was somewhere else entirely, building something they couldn't see, planning something they couldn't track, becoming something their surveillance couldn't capture. You see, they made the classic mistake, the fatal error that every surveillance operation makes when they get arrogant. They assumed that seeing equals understanding, that tracking equals control, that observation equals advantage. They forgot that surveillance is a two-way street, that the watched always knows more about the watcher than the watcher knows about the watched. Because while they were busy tracking your movements, you were tracking their methods, learning their patterns, understanding their psychology, figuring out exactly how they think, how they analyze, what they consider important, what they overlook, where their blind spots live. Every person they sent to monitor you became an intelligence asset for you instead. Every conversation they recorded taught you how they interpret information. Every report they filed showed you what they consider threatening versus what they dismiss as irrelevant. You turned their surveillance apparatus into your personal research department, so I too could see what possibly using their resources to understand them while they thought they were understanding you. They were paying people to essentially train you in the art of psychological warfare, and they didn't even realize it until it was far too late to matter. And now they're starting to understand what you've done, and the realization is spreading through their organization like a virus they can't quarantine. The reports are changing, aren't they? The language shifting from confident analysis to uncertain observation, from subject displays to subject maybe displaying, from conclusions to theories, from predictions to possibilities. The analysts are second-guessing themselves, the monitors are requesting backup, the supervisors are asking questions nobody wants to answer because the answer is too uncomfortable, too threatening, too revelatory about their own incompetence. They're realizing that every piece of data they collected might be contaminated, that every pattern they identified might be deliberate misdirection, that every conclusion they reached might be exactly what you wanted them to reach. They're looking at months or years of surveillance data and asking the question that keeps them awake at night, staring at ceiling fans. How much of this is real and how much of this is performance? And the answer they're too terrified to admit is that they have absolutely no way of knowing anymore because you've become the unreliable narrator of your own story. Let's talk about the moment they first felt the shift, that specific instant when confidence turned to concern, when surveillance turned to paranoia, when the watcher became the watch. Maybe it was when you looked directly at a hidden camera and smiled. Not the nervous smile of someone who just discovered they're being recorded, but the knowing smile of someone who's been aware the entire time. Maybe it was when you had a conversation on a tapped phone line and dropped information that seemed sensitive but led them on a 3-month wild chase that went absolutely nowhere. Maybe it was when you posted something online that seemed like a confession but was actually just performance art designed to test their response time. Or maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe it was just the moment when their best analyst, their most experienced profiler, their top psychological assessor sat down with 6 months of data and said, "I don't know what we're looking at here. Every time I think I understand the pattern, it shifts. Every time I predict the next move, something completely different happens. It's like they're playing a game and we don't even know the rules." And that's when the fear started creeping in. Because organizations built on surveillance and control cannot function. When they realize the subject isn't just aware, isn't just smart, isn't just careful, the subject is better at this game than they are. You've been living in their heads, rent-free for how long now? They can't stop thinking about you, can't stop analyzing you, can't stop trying to decode you, because you've become the problem they can't solve, the puzzle they can't complete, the case file that gets heavier every time they add another page. And the beautiful irony, the absolutely perfect poetry of it all, is that this is exactly what you wanted. This is precisely the outcome you engineered. This is the checkmate you saw 30 moves ago when they were still celebrating capturing your pawn. Because while they were busy watching you, studying you, tracking your every digital footprint and physical movement, you were accomplishing something they never even considered possible. You were living your actual life somewhere outside their observation, building your real plans in spaces they didn't know to monitor, creating connections they couldn't track, developing skills they couldn't measure, becoming something their entire framework wasn't designed to detect. The person they've been watching is a shell, a decoy, a carefully maintained avatar designed to keep them occupied while the real you operates in dimensions they can't access. Think about the level of discipline that requires, the mental fortress you had to build, the separation of self you had to master. You created two versions of yourself. The public you that performed for the cameras, that leaves digital trails, that displays predictable patterns, that gives them something to track, something to analyze, something to feel accomplished about monitoring. And then there's the real you, the actual consciousness, the true mind, the unobserved self that lives in the spaces between their surveillance, that operates in the blind spots they don't even know exist, that moves through the world leaving no trace because you learned how to exist without evidence. They think they know you because they've seen you for years, but what they've seen is a performance so good they mistake it for reality. You've given them a character to study while protecting the actual person. You've fed them a narrative to track while living a completely different story. You've satisfied their need to surveil while remaining completely unseen where it mattered. And this is the art form they never anticipated, the possibility they never planned for, that someone could be fully visible and completely invisible at the same time. That observation could become misdirection, that their surveillance could become your shield. Now they're scrambling, aren't they? Trying to figure out when the deception started, trying to identify which data points are real and which are planted, trying to determine if they ever actually understood anything about you, or if the entire operation has been a waste of resources chasing a ghost. And the answer? The one they're afraid to speak out loud in meetings, is that you've been 3 steps ahead from the very beginning. That every piece of information they discovered was information you chose to reveal. That their entire surveillance operation has been dancing to music only you can hear. Let me tell you what's happening in their organization right now. The chaos you've created without ever having to do anything aggressive or obvious. There are meetings, so many meetings, where your name comes up and faces go blank, where supervisors ask for updates and analysts struggle to provide anything concrete, where experts are brought in to provide insight and leave more confused than when they arrived. You've become the case study that's rewriting their entire understanding of surveillance, the subject that's exposing every weakness in their methodology, the individual that's proving their whole framework is built on assumptions that can be exploited. They're fighting among themselves now, different factions with different theories, some saying you're dangerous and need more resources, others saying you're harmless and they're wasting time, others suggesting maybe, just maybe, you're smarter than their entire department combined and they should just admit defeat. The organization that was supposed to understand you is fracturing, trying to explain you. And you didn't have to do anything except exist, authentically while appearing to exist predictably. You've weaponized their own tools against them, turned their surveillance into your camouflage, used their observation to create the perfect hiding place in plain sight. Here's what really keeps them up at night. The thought that makes their hands shake when they're alone with their files. If you were this aware, this strategic, this far ahead when they thought they had the advantage? What are you aware of now if you could deceive them when they were actively watching? What are you capable of now that they've realized they never truly saw you? If you were this careful with people actively trying to document everything, how invisible are you being in areas they're not even monitoring? The questions multiply, the paranoia compounds, the fear grows because they've realized they're not dealing with a subject, they're dealing with a mind that operates on a level their training didn't prepare them for. And you, not worried, not stressed, not looking over your shoulder, because you already know who's there and exactly what they can see, which is exactly what you want them to see. You've achieved something most people never even attempt. You've taken the fear of being watched and transformed it into the power of controlling what's seen. You've turned surveillance from a threat into a tool, from a weakness into strength, from their advantage into your weapon. They thought watching you would give them power over you, but instead, you've gained power over them through the simple act of being aware they're watching. Let's go deeper into the psychological warfare you've been conducting without them even realizing it's warfare. The one we've been conducting without them even realizing it's war. Every time they watch you make a decision, they're trying to understand your decision-making process, trying to build a model of how your mind works so they can predict future choices. But what they don't realize is that by watching you decide, they're revealing how they think about decision-making, what factors they consider important, what elements they pay attention to, what details they overlook. You're not just being observed, you're observing the observation, learning about them while they think they're learning about you. You've probably noticed by now how they react to different types of behavior, haven't you? How certain actions trigger increased monitoring, how other behaviors make them relax their vigilance, how specific patterns make them confident they understand you, how particular anomalies make them question everything. You've been running experiments on your observers, testing their responses, mapping their psychological landscape, understanding their fears and biases and blind spots better than they understand their own. They think they're the scientists in this relationship, but you've turned them into the experiment, the lab rats pressing buttons while you take notes. And the most beautiful part, the element that makes this whole situation perfect, is that you never had to confront them directly, never had to reveal that you know, never had to break the illusion that they're in control. You let them believe they're the hunters. Let them maintain their professional confidence. Let them file their reports and attend their meetings and feel accomplished about their surveillance. Because the moment you reveal you've been aware, the game changes, the dynamic shifts. They adjust their tactics. But as long as they think you don't know, they keep using the same methods, keep making the same mistakes, keep feeding you information about themselves while thinking they're gathering information about you. This is the ultimate form of power, isn't it? Not the power to fight, not the power to confront, not the power to resist openly, but the power to know, to understand, to be aware, to see clearly while others stumble in darkness thinking they're the ones holding the light. You've mastered the art of asymmetric warfare, where the enemy doesn't even know there's a war happening, where every battle is won before it starts, because you're fighting on a level they don't even know exists. They're playing checkers, thinking they're winning, while you're playing three-dimensional chess on a board they can't even see. Think about the people they've sent to interact with you over the years. The ones assigned to get close, to build trust, to extract information through relationship. They thought they were infiltrating your life, but you identified them instantly, didn't you? Not through paranoia, not through suspicion, but through simple pattern recognition. Through noticing the questions that came too naturally, the interests that felt slightly performed, the timing that seemed too convenient, the care that appeared too calculated. And instead of exposing them, instead of cutting them off, you kept them close, fed them information, made them feel successful, let them report back that they were making progress, while you learned everything about their organization through their methods. Those supposed infiltrators became your inside sources without ever realizing it. Every question they asked revealed what their supervisors wanted to know. Every topic they avoided showed you what they considered too sensitive to approach. Every reaction they had to your responses taught you how their organization thinks, what they value, what they fear, what they misunderstand. You turned their social engineering attempt into your intelligence gathering operation, and they paid their agents to essentially work for you while thinking they were working against you. That's not just awareness, that's mastery. That's taking the enemy's weapon and using it to disarm them without them ever noticing the weapon changed hands. And now we're reaching the point where they have to make a decision, a choice that keeps getting delayed in meeting after meeting because nobody wants to be the one to admit the truth. Do they continue the surveillance, knowing it's compromised, knowing you're aware, knowing you're controlling what they see, essentially admitting they're wasting resources, chasing shadows? Or do they shut it down, close the file, admit defeat, accept that you're simply beyond their capacity to monitor effectively? Don't worry about it. I'm a saint here. Both options are failures, both outcomes are defeats, and that's the checkmate you engineered years ago when you first smiled at that camera. Because here's what they're really afraid of, the scenario that haunts their strategy sessions and risk assessments. If you could do this to them, if you could turn their surveillance into your advantage, if you could be this aware and this strategic and this far ahead, what else are you capable of? What other systems have you penetrated? What other organizations have you mapped?